this particular segment, we are talking about Trump, what he can do, the three things he can do, mostly in particular, that he can do to help win over millennials. This is a group of people that is not firmly in the base. This is a group of people that is quite diverse. This is a group of people that I'm a part of. And I'm going to talk about how he can do it and how what he just did is probably not a good indicator for him, right? I don't think Ron DeSantis is quite a millennial. He's more of Gen X type of, he's a little older, but he is not. He might be on on the cusp of those generations, but he is obviously younger. And so one of the things that I think is very apparent as we move into the 2024 election cycle is that we have leadership that has been in power for far too long. There's a growing level of discontent, and I don't want to say this to offend or piss off any of my boomer listeners, the baby boomers that might be out there, but there is a growing level of discontent and understanding where we believe and we can see that a lot of the things that had happened during the growing cycle of the economics of the baby boomer generation, when they were coming into their own growth power dynamic of having economic power and so forth and so on, is probably the golden age of America, as we can call it. This Make America Great Again slogan, everybody was like, what was so great about America, in 1952? Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. As the world's reserve currency, we had probably less than 30% of the world's population, definitely less than that, and had over half the wealth. And so that is flip-flopped to the other side now. And it's because of this hyperinflation. It's because of this level of corruption that's been going on. It's because of the consistent raising of rates. It's because of the Federal Reserve tampering with our money. It's because of this system that has been growing more and more and more corrupt. One of the things that I talk to the older people about all the time is they're like, how can we get young people involved in politics? How can we get them interested? How can we get them da 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 da? And it's not to say that they're not involved or interested in politics, but number one, the first thought that comes to my mind, because I'm highly involved in politics and I'm one of those freaky type people. I'm one of those people who wanted to be on the Model UN when we were in school, but then I realized how corny and geeky those kids are. And now those are the kids that are running policy and work for these policy centers and these think tanks and all that stuff. So I could have been there, but I just looked at everybody that was there and was like, my God, these people are dweebs. So that's the reason why I avoided that whole venture, but I was always interested in it. I was always a historian. I was always somebody who liked this kind of thing. But anytime an older person talks to me about like, how can we get young people involved? The first thought that comes into my mind is, number one, where were you for the last 30 or 40 years? And why weren't you there? Right? Perfect example. If you want somebody who's 30 something years old, 35 years old, late 30s, early 40s, has kids, has a job, has things going on to get involved, but yet you weren't involved when it was easier to get involved. The country wasn't sinking. We weren't on the verge of collapse. All these things weren't a big problem. And now all of a sudden you want young people to save you from the catastrophe that you could have prevented. There is a part of me that does get a little peeved when I hear that. As a millennial, just straight up as a millennial, I didn't even have, and I'm not complaining here because everybody makes their own way. There's Gen Z, there's 19-year-olds who make millions of dollars a year. I'm not complaining. What I'm trying to say is that I barely had an opportunity to come out of school, high school, go to college, and settle into a stable system that existed that would support me and that I could buy into and have a good lifestyle from. I had to claw for everything I have, and I had to learn along the way all on my own because I didn't necessarily have tons of people around me saying this is a good investment, that's a good investment. My wife, for example, same thing. Everybody, go to college. Yeah, okay, well, now we're all racked with all this debt, can't do all these different things, and don't have the time that I wish I had to get into politics more than I have. And so it's just there's a certain myopic understanding that comes from the older generation where they think it's kind of self-centered. I mean, I think there's a lot of evidence that points to, the fact that the older generation had been focused a lot on, money, status, things of that nature, climbing the corporate ladder and all those things. And because those were the things of most importance, right? And because the world wasn't so obviously falling apart, they just said, hey, I'll let somebody else do it. I'll vote my way, and I'll vote for whatever I want and whatever I think that I want, and those politician people will take care of it. Those people who are interested in it will take care of it. Well, that's the exact mindset that's gotten us to this point. And now we're in such a toxic environment, and then they go, where are all the young people at? Where are all the young people who their entire lives growing up, we told them to fit in, we told them to get along, we told them to be nice, we told them to cooperate, we told them to be tolerant, we told them to not make waves, we didn't teach them how to be individuals, we didn't teach them how to think for themselves, we didn't teach them how to question authority at all. Where are those people in the most toxic of social political times? Where are those people getting up in other people's faces, making enemies, making it difficult to go out into a restaurant to eat, not being able to enjoy their lives, not being able to just go to their child's soccer practice and just, where are those people and why aren't they more involved? It's like all the trauma, all the stress, all the problems that you had when you were a young person or a younger person and raising your family, those exact same things apply, except they're double, triple, quadruple now. Inflation is insane. It's harder than ever to raise a family. If you don't have time, if you can't homeschool, then you're sending your kids off to God knows what indoctrination camp. And then when you get home, they get indoctrinated more by these streaming networks, by Disney Plus, by whatever, it is. It's like, it's hard to, keep track of what's going on. If you're out there working, commuting back and forth, you have a job, your wife has a job, you're exhausted. And the last thing you want to do is show up to a meeting, no offense, but with a bunch of geriatric patients who are complaining about, wokeism, and all you care about is just making sure that you can pay your mortgage on time. I'm sorry, but every time I hear that, it kind of like grates against me. And I'm like, most people, even older people, don't care about politics that much. So to sit here and get upset that young people don't care about politics, it's not as though that they don't see what's going on. It's not as though they don't have an opinion about what's going on. But number one, politics is very difficult to get involved into, especially on the local level. You got to know where to go, how to go, what to do, who to talk to. Everybody's got an agenda. On the local level, it's very catty. It's very, Karen-esque. There's a lot of Karens on the local level that you got to deal with and fight and debate. It's a power struggle. There's a bunch of tiny little serfs and tiny little fiefdoms that people try to accumulate on the local level. So you're not even talking about national politics when you go and get involved in these things. To get involved on the local level, you have got to be so motivated to make an impact, and it has to have something to do with more than just yourself. It has to do with you wanting to make a good impression for your children, to teach them how to be involved, which is my motivation. I wanted to teach my children how to be involved locally because I never really got that when I was a kid. Maybe got a sprinkle of it, but I didn't get it to the extent that I have now. And that's what you'll usually find on the local level. You'll find people whose daddies were the county commissioner and now they're involved in politics, or their uncle was involved, or and it becomes a family business. And so that's very difficult for people to enter into, especially when they're casual political observers, right? And so that being said, I know that was an extremely long rant, but that being said, this is going to lead into what I'm talking about with Trump, right? I'm 35 years old. Am I 35? I'm 35. I'm going to be 36 years old. And today, most recently, Donald Trump chooses to go on the attack and attack Kayleigh McEnany. Kayleigh McEnany is 35 years old. She is a millennial. What purpose does that serve, especially when the reality of what happened was Kayleigh McEnany didn't say anything bad about Trump, not anything nearly as bad as she said about Trump when she was working for CNN. She just said, hey, Trump's 25 points ahead of DeSantis. Trump didn't like that. I'm 34 points ahead of DeSantis. Do you know what that does to a young person, to a millennial, to see that kind of like nitpicking on something so frivolous and so ridiculous? That is like, I don't know how many conversations I've had with older men where, you get one thing wrong and they're so particular about it. And you're like, dude, it's not really a big deal. What are you getting upset about? It's got old man vibes, right? And so as we enter the 2024 season, when everybody already sees how degraded Joe Biden is, everybody already sees that the man probably is, going to the bathroom in his diaper every 5 seconds. When he scurries away, it's like, yeah, he's probably got a package in his diaper right there, and he's trying to hurry up and get to the bathroom so aides can help him, take it off. But we already see that. Everybody already sees that. So even just because you're an old man who doesn't crap his pants, you're still the old angry man shaking his fist at the sky when the main gripe that people have about politics in this country, left, right, center, doesn't matter, is that we've had too many octogenarians, or I don't know how the word goes. It's escaping me right now. But 70, 80-year-olds running the country, and they're so out of touch. And we're in the middle of one of the most, probably the most spectacular technological transformations that anyone has ever seen. In the next 20 or 30 years, the world is going to be recognizable with the changes that are going to be made, with whether it be AI, new energy technologies that are going to be founded, robots, just life-saving technologies, healthcare. I mean, we are on the cusp of having some of the most amazing technologies that you've ever seen. And yet here we have people who literally lived through World War II, running the country, making decisions. And so when you have these Democrats who are 75, 85, pushing 90 years old, basically that means they were born pretty much after World War One. I mean, some of these people are just ancient, and good for them that they're still out there doing their thing. But Dianne Feinstein is almost a vegetable, for crying out loud, and she won't give up her seat. Nancy Pelosi is drunk all the time. Who knows how many combination cocktails of different things that she's taken or whatever, and it's like she's up there slurring her words. I mean, good God. And it's like a retirement home with people who got too much power. Have you ever been in a retirement home or retirement community? Those people cling on to the smallest circumstances, the smallest predicaments, and blow them up and make a huge deal about it, because what else do they have to do? They don't have anything else going on. They don't have to look down the road 10 years and, whoa, what am I going to be doing in 10 years? 10 years is not an option for a lot of these people. So they're focused on right here, right now. Oh, you stole my Jello, give it back. I'm not, I'm not trying to go on a whole rant about, old people. I really do love and respect old people. I really do. Trust me. But, when you have them in positions of power, making deals and working with military contractors and then, provoking wars that could enter us into the end of our civilization. I mean, it's just like, good God, man. It's so this is what we're facing. This is what we're dealing with. And Donald Trump is not doing a good job of combating that. Let's just say that. He's not doing a good job in the eyes of most millennials. The thing that Donald Trump has done well for millennials is that he has branded himself as the outsider, as the rebel. He has branded himself as the alternative to the establishment. He is punk rock, as it were, right? He is the taboo word that you cannot say. And that is the only thing that has Trump so popular amongst millennials. Maybe the other thing is that millennials have an understanding of where they were at economically 3 years ago, and understand how good that was for them, right? We could take vacations and do things and not be stressing, and not, the price of food and goods was low, gas was cheap, so on and so forth. So those are the things. But I will say this: if Trump wants to win over millennials, number one, first thing he's got to do is he's got to stop disparaging other millennials. He's got to stop disparaging people that are younger than he, right? And I'll say this, coming from experience as a millennial, and I don't speak for all millennials, not everybody's had this experience, but as a millennial, the in general, I believe, because I've spoken to many different millennials, and this seems to be a unified, universal experience, right? But there's exceptions, right? When we have tried to enter the workforce, when we have tried to enter any type of project, activity that is run, managed, maintained by an older generation, whether it be Gen X, baby boomers, doesn't matter. Whenever we've tried to enter into that space, first, when we were much younger, we were made fun of, right? Remember those articles back in the day that were like, millennials don't know what they want. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what to choose. They don't have the same values as their predecessors. Remember those articles way back in the day? We're talking 2007, 2008, 2009. It was all about millennials are confused. They don't know how the world works. And I'm not saying that that a lot of millennials do, but they don't know the way the world works, blah, 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 blah. And then somewhere around from that point on to 2012, 2014, the narrative started to formulate and change because as millennials started to grow, millennials are more concerned about the environment. They want to be socially responsible whenever they buy goods or shop or invest or whatever, which is what gave birth to this whole DEI ESG type of thing, as we can see. But this beast has gotten out of control. This is not what millennials wanted, really. But okay. So then it started moving into a more socially responsible, conscious, globally eco-aware type understanding of the world and how they wanted to spend their money. Millennials want to do that. Now it's millennials are lazy. They're not contributing to the workforce. Da, 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 da. This has been like the consistent message and narrative throughout my entire adult life is that we're confused. We don't know what's going on. We're bleeding hearts, right? And we don't really want to work, so on and so forth, right? Well, there's a reason for all those things. And let me put it to you like this. I know plenty of millennials that want to work, that want to contribute. The challenge has been that what is it that I actually want to do? How do I want to contribute to the world? And this is the trap that was set up for my generation. We had such amazing wealth coming from the 90s, the 80s, the 90s. We had such amazing wealth in this country that we had reached a point where our parents said, you could be whatever you want to be. You could do whatever you want to do. Well, you know what? If that's the case, then I want to take my time to try to understand my place in this world and try to understand how I can contribute to it in a real way. Now, granted, because we had lived in such a coddled time and such a time of such great prosperity, and no one, the mainstream media included, was not ringing the alarm about all these other countries that wanted to take our lunch. They were just leaving us in this state of delusionality where anything, your dreams can come true, just whatever. There was a time when there was a mad rush to not go into the traditional workspace and go into social media and all that. And that was the early days. And now it still continues, right? Gen Z is just the ones that are doing it now. And they will actually be the generation who could pull it off and, full time and actually make that. They're going to have to, because there's not going to be any jobs for them. But as that emerged, we started living in a realm of delusionality because what we couldn't distinguish the real from the fake. Now people are more aware as they get on social media that, hey, that's not real, that's fake, whatever. But when social media first came out, you could hop the fence at an airport, at a private airport, take a picture next to a private jet, pretend like it was your jet. The doors are open, the stairs are down. You could pretend like you were getting on the jet. Hey, maybe if you were bold enough, you could get on the jet and take pictures on the jet. Get off the jet, hop the fence again, post those videos, those pictures on Facebook, Instagram, and people would think you were a millionaire. And because they thought you were a millionaire, here's the scam. I'll teach you how to be a millionaire too. And they would send you money. And that was before all these different guardrails were in place. It was before people became more savvy to how that works. We're savvy now, but that allowed millennials to live into this world of delusionality and start to follow people, influencers or whomever, voices that, did not have their best interest at heart, right? I'm getting off topic. I'm rambling. This is called the BlackRant podcast because that's what I do. I rant. But as we talk about this, it is very important to not disparage millennials, because it's not necessarily all our fault that the Twin Towers were destroyed. We literally watched a mass human sacrifice live on television, and I was in middle school, right? Say whatever you want, but you didn't see Pearl Harbor happening in live time. I don't think anybody saw Pearl Harbor happening in live time. You heard it on the radio, but you didn't even, you just heard somebody talking about it on the radio. We had to watch people for years after 9/11 jumping out of windows, thousands of stories up, hundreds of stories up, to their deaths, just because they didn't feel like getting burnt alive by the flames inside. That's what my generation was raised on. Okay, so we're not weak, we're not pathetic, we're not lazy. We're traumatized. And if you know anything about trauma-based mind control, that's what's going on. It's like some people can handle it, some people can't, some people break, some people try to find some way to cope, right? And so that's what has happened to my generation. Is in our earliest stages, going from childhood to adulthood, we were, subjected to a trauma-based mind control ritual. That's as easy as I can put it. So there's that. And so when I'm talking about Kayleigh McEnany, I'm talking about Ron DeSantis, I'm talking about younger people from a younger generation. I just saw Lionel from Lionel and Nation. He said he raised a really good point. The best tactic that DeSantis could ever have would be to just disregard Trump, give him his proper due and respect, but treat him as though he was like, FDR, like a president from a bygone era and a bygone time, and that the time that he had is now over and it is time for something new. Now, I am not necessarily a DeSantis fan. I am highly suspicious. When the Bushes start putting out promo videos for you, look out. That is not a family that comes from really great roots, in my opinion. But so to have that happening, and I understand as a candidate, you can't always, prevent people from doing that, but there are just too many oddities around Ron DeSantis, that have me raising my eyebrows and questioning things. But the way Donald Trump has been acting lately, and I'm sure this won't continue into next year, and let me be clear, right? Like Barack Obama, let me be clear. Donald Trump is not unhinged. If I had the same treatment done to me that's happening to Donald Trump, the FBI raiding me and me having to go to court and this and that and the other and the other, trust me, Donald Trump is not unhinged. He's handling it pretty well. I think what's happening is that the entire Republican infrastructure is turning against him because they think they smell a loser, right? Donald Trump lost in 2020. No matter what we say, no matter how much evidence you have, he lost, okay? Does not matter, bro. It does not matter. If there's a boxing match and between two boxers and one has bricks in their glove, and he knocks the other boxer out cold, sure, he cheated, but if they get away with it, if the ding 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 round, give me the belt, and they run off and they leave and they throw away the gloves, and somebody finds the gloves in a trash can 2 days later, and then the news doesn't really talk about it, that guy won. It's like, okay, he might have cheated because he had bricks in his gloves. He won. Donald Trump lost 2020, bro. We all know in politics, there is no there is no, well, this is below the honor code. This is not an honorable practice. Are you kidding me? It's politics. So number one, do not disparage millennials. Number two, stop talking about the 2020 election from a perspective of I got cheated. They cheated me. They stole the election. Blah, 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 blah. Patrick Bet-David had a really good point about this because he said, and I 100% agree with him. If you're Donald Trump, you're the ultimate winner. Yeah, I'm the ultimate winner. I'm Donald Trump. I'm the ultimate. I'm the guy. If you're Donald Trump and you're the ultimate winner, and then you start running around doing a tour about how you're actually the ultimate loser, I don't know. That's like a conflicting message that we're sending here. Because going around and saying, well, I would have won, but if it wasn't stolen, it's like, what? I thought you were the man. I thought you were okay. So, and this is the solution to that, right? 2020 wasn't fair, but we're moving on. 2024, we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's how Trump needs to talk about it, because we can't relive 2020. Nobody wants to relive 2020. Nobody wants to relive 2021. Nobody wants to go back through that, and least of all, millennials do. Older people, baby boomers, might be able to go back there because they have a leisurely time of doing it. They're not raising their kids anymore. Their kids are fully grown, so they don't have to, whatever. They're not, they're possibly retired or semi-retired or on their way to retirement, so they're not thinking about, rising through the ranks at their company anymore. That's over with. But who is still dealing with that stuff, who's in the middle of their lives, who has to go to work, and maybe they have a client, or maybe they have a coworker, or maybe they have a boss who's a Democrat, likes Joe Biden. It becomes very difficult for someone who's trying to conform to obsess and become very involved in something that is clearly everyone is okay with, to a certain degree, because the fact that no one wants to touch it, nobody wants to handle it, nobody wants to talk about it, it means that there's a quiet acceptance of it, right? And so I will say this, a lot of people are pissed about 2020. A lot of people think Donald Trump a lot of people think that, right? A lot of people. That plays to a specific group of people. But if you want to complain about the 2020 election, you have to frame it as though they stole your future. Not they stole it from me. And I've been saying that since 2021. If Donald Trump would frame the election getting rigged, if it did get rigged, who knows? Not saying it did. But if he would frame it as they stole it from you, they stole your American birthright from you, because I am on your side. I'm on the side of America. I'm on the side of American greatness. I want to make America so great that your children's children will be able to benefit from it, just like we did before. And by subverting the true honest process, by not being honest and upfront about what was going on with the president and his son, they stole that from you. They lied to you. That's like somebody asking you for a couple $100 and, hey, I need a couple $100. I'm going to do something. It's going to be great. I'll pay you right back. And they lied to you. They didn't tell you that they're a drug addict and they were going to put that right into their arm. They lied to you. They lied to you. So that's number two. Dos. That's two. Donald Trump, don't disparage millennials. Reframe the election 2020 conversation, because you sound like a loser. And then number three, when it comes to Ron DeSantis, and this kind of goes into the don't disparage millennials thing, is it's like he is seen as the future of Republican politics and the potential future of the party. And here you are, and it's like, I know it's an election cycle, I know it, but it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like 2016 where he's saying, whatever he was saying about all these other people, it's like when he was making fun of Jeb Bush, you could tell that there was almost like no animosity that Trump actually had towards Jeb Bush. He was just like, you're running a pathetic campaign, you're a pathetic candidate, and yeah, and that's it. Trump seems to have a better understanding and understand that DeSantis is a star of a candidate, but he's not ready for the big time. I will tell you that DeSantis is obviously not ready for the big time. Just plain and simple, just obvious. And I like to think about it like this: against all the potential candidates, right? You look at Ron DeSantis versus Gavin Newsom. I think Gavin Newsom wipes the floor with Ron DeSantis. And not because Gavin Newsom is, a great leader or whatever, or governor, but because the man will lie through his teeth until the cows come home. And there's not, and Ron DeSantis is so straight. He's such a straight man that I don't think there's anything that he could say to Gavin Newsom that would throw him off. Gavin Newsom would just continue to just lie straight to your face. And Ron DeSantis couldn't shake him out of that. Trump is so unpredictable that if it was a Trump Newsom battle, Gavin Newsom would look like a child standing next to Trump. Trump would destroy him. However, if it's Trump versus Michelle Obama, wow, that's you're talking about optics. You're talking about that's a bad one for Trump. If you're talking about Michelle Obama versus Ron DeSantis, you might have something there. You might have something there because Michelle Obama's never run anything. She's just the former president's wife. Ron DeSantis ran a whole state and ran it well and continues to run it well. People go there. He's young. He's younger than Michelle Obama. I mean, it's like, and Ron, they're trying to paint Ron as this racist person. They're trying to do it, but it's not really sticking. The only reason why whatever they're doing is working is because they have their hordes out there. The leftist hordes are just out in Florida just protesting, which shows you something. It really does show you something because it's interesting, and we'll see how that shakes out. But I'm just saying, what people should start to do is they should start to think about what the matchups are going to be, and not the matchups in the primary, because that's kind of irrelevant. I think Trump wipes the floor with any Republican candidate. The Republican candidates, though, will have something to say to Trump. They didn't have anything to say to Trump. Anything in 2016. They had no ammunition against Trump in 2016 except you're being mean. That was literally all they were saying. Like, you're mean, you don't have decorum, you need to just step aside, you don't have decorum. Like, that was like their main attack against Trump. It's like, you're immature. Now they have all types of attacks. They have all types of things they can say against Trump. And so what is Trump going to say against that? And so so anyway, number three, if Trump really, really, really wants to win over millennials, he's going to have to loosen up just a little bit. Loosening up is key for Trump. What do I mean by that? Yeah, we think Trump's pretty loose, but the rhetoric that he spews for his older voter, for his older demographic, his older constituency, like, put people in jail for drugs. Now, millennials, we're getting to the point where we're getting older and we start to understand, hey, people just can't be just doing drugs willy-nilly, like any kind of drugs, right? But at the same time, we understand, you want to give people the death penalty for selling drugs? I know he means fentanyl. I get it. But it's just like, do we want to become that country that starts killing people? Or do we just want to actually just, find, arrest, and prosecute the people doing this? Because what's happening is that's just not being done. So it's like an exchange for whatever's going on. Our government is allowing this stuff to come in and, from wherever it's coming from and allowing it to be sold. That's all that's happening. So, okay, do we want to kill people or do we just want to stop it? And obviously it can be stopped. It wasn't here before. Now it's here now. What's going on? So just some of that stuff that older people resonate with that are just, oh, I think it's the drugs that are destroying our world and our community and all this. Listen, these drugs have been around forever. They're the same drugs that have been around. Maybe they're more powerful, whatnot. It's not drugs that are destroying society. It's our society that's destroying society. It's our culture that's destroying society. It's our willingness to allow anything and everything goes. And that actually is, once again, baby boomers' fault. It is that generation where the flower child came from. That is that generation that they gave offspring to the flower child. They were the ones who were the hippies. Okay? They were the ones who were the hippies. Gen X didn't even have time to be hippies. That was they were growing up after the hippie age. It was the baby boomers that were the hippies. They were the ones the ones that were, free love and all that stuff. That was them. Now, that wasn't every baby boomer, obviously, but that was that generation. And so they can't forget that that's their roots and that's where they came from. And they set the tone. They allowed themselves to be brought into that. And that shifted our society dramatically. That shifted and changed our society dramatically. When Vietnam protests were going on, my dad was 9. 10. He's not a boomer. It was the boomers that were protesting. It was the let's not get it twisted, okay? And now here they are today. Whatever side of the fence that they're on, Democrat or Republican, they are becoming more draconian with their ideas and their principles. And it's not the traditional American way. It's not a traditional American discussion, right? We're not having this discussion where it's like, how can we find a laissez-faire solution to our problems where we can allow for a free and open society, but still prohibit certain things or whatever. That's not the conversation today. The conversation is becoming ban this, ban that, get rid of these people, get rid of those people, burn this, shut that down. That's becoming the conversation. And to be quite honest, millennials are, and I'm going to speak for millennials. Maybe this isn't the right thing to do, but we are naturally averse to that because I think most millennials know exactly where that goes on either side of the spectrum. Anyone with common sense, right? We're not talking about somebody who's totally brain dead and believes everything and whatever. We're talking about people who have some kind of common sense, which is more millennials than you'd give us credit for. We know that once you go down that path, it's very, very difficult to come back from that. And I think the older generation thinks, oh, it'll be temporary. No, it's not going to be temporary. It's going to be very, very challenging to move past that after a certain point, especially once you put those rules in place. And so we're trying to discover this. We're trying to navigate it. We're trying to figure it out. And now these problems are our problems. They're Gen X, Millennial, and Gen Z problems, right? These are the problems that we're facing now. So long story short, Trump should do these 3 things to make sure that he can keep millennials, have a more inviting atmosphere for millennials. Don't disparage other millennials or Gen Xers because they're not the cause of the problems that we have in our world today. So by disparaging a Ron DeSantis or a Kayleigh McEnany for just being in the system that was created by his own generation, Donald Trump just ends up looking like a huge asshole and a hypocrite, right? It plays to the base, but you're not winning most other people. And how many millennials are in the base, in the Trump base? You got to really consider that, right? Number 2, what was number 2? What was number 2? I know what number 3 was. And I lost that too. I've just done so much talking at this point that it's just like, but number 1 was don't disparage millennials. Number 2 was, God, I can't even remember what number 2 was. I can't remember now. We'll come back to that. But number 3 was essentially he's got to tone it down. He's got to look like the future and not the past. just becoming like trying to institute more draconian rules is not the it's not going to bring any millennials over to your side. Saying like I'm going to end birthright citizenship in this country day one is, it's not going to happen, right? Not only is it not true that he's going to be able to do this, but it's like another draconian measure to what? To make your base feel good, make them feel good. I don't know what's going on here, but I feel like Trump is at the end of whatever saga he's in, right? And so he is starting to understand that 2024 is looking a lot like 2016. The problem is Trump is not as young. He's made some missteps. He's missed a step or two. Can he rebrand himself? Can he change the way that he has approached politics? It was refreshing, shocking, to see that in 2015, 2016, somebody coming out calling all the politicians that we knew were liars and frauds, right to their face. Very refreshing. Who doesn't like that? Saying things that were just absolutely true, saying things that were like, hey, we got these problems. Very refreshing. But now that people understand Trump, they know what he's about. What is the next step for Trump? Where does he go from here? How can he come out, be fresh, new, exciting, win over the base and then some, win the Republican Party? I mean, because I think that's essentially the split right now that people are starting to understand, that we're inching slowly towards a civil unrest, a civil war, if you will, a fissure within our society where there is going to be irrevocable damage, and people that are on opposite ends of the spectrum are going to be unable to reconcile. And that is, people intuitively understand that Trump is just going to exacerbate that. He's just going to make it worse. He's not going to make it better. He's not the president that's going to come in and heal. But neither is Ron DeSantis, right? So it's like people are compromising the mission, which I think the mission is to clean up the government. Like Trump says, oh, you're fired. But we didn't see him fire any people that were important to fire. He didn't fire Anthony Fauci. He didn't fire a whole bunch of people that should have been fired, that infiltrated the administration and made it the worst, the most confusing administration probably in history. It was just confusing. You're looking at the news, it says this. You're looking at this, it says this. You're looking at social media, it says that. Trump's doing good things, but it was just, the messaging was all over the place because he did not have loyalty. He did not have people on his team that were actually on mission. He had people in Washington, which this is the nature of the beast, that are all in it for themselves, climbing whatever social, economic, corporate ladder that they choose. And so that's where we are. But people are compromising the mission of cleaning up America, trying to make sure that we can rebuild our wealth so that we can get in somebody that is more appealing to the other 30% of Americans. You know what I'm saying? It's like conservative values have taken hold. I think probably 50 to 60% of America is on board with conservative values, right? And so we're going to compromise the conservative value. We're going to compromise like getting what we want by having a truly conservative administration, regardless of whatever Trump is personally. As a president, as a political leader, very conservative. Not fiscally conservative, but conservative. We're going to move away from that because, he makes other people uncomfortable. He makes the 30% of people that hate his guts get mad. He like it, dude. It doesn't matter whether Trump's in office or not. We are going to have crazies that go out and do crazy things. If a Republican wins, it doesn't matter. There's going to be crazies that do crazy things. But I will say this, people are absolutely correct when they say, well, having Trump up there gives them the ability, the media, the political left, it gives them the ability to frame a narrative where like in 2020, where it makes people believe that citizenry, constituency was just so tired of Donald Trump. They were tired of the toxicity, that's why they voted against their own best interest. That's why they voted for things that they now do not even like. They convinced the world that Joe Biden was voted for in just record numbers because people just didn't like Donald Trump. And it's like, people were not happy with Donald Trump on a lot of different things at that time. But to say that people went out and voted for Joe Biden because of that is absolute nonsense. It's absolute bonkers. The people who were going to vote for Joe Biden were going to vote for Joe Biden, period. And so I feel like it's kind of a weak-minded thing. I'm so much more on Team Trump than Team DeSantis because I don't think DeSantis can handle it. I don't think DeSantis can sit there and have negotiations with Vladimir Putin. I don't think he's ready for that. And I don't want to see another administration where they have 5 different advisors talking to Putin's 5 different advisors before anybody actually gets down to sit at the table. We're reaching a point in the world, once again, where dictatorship is no longer a bad word. And if people don't know, right before World War II, dictatorship was not a bad word either because the world was in such a state of chaos. There was no leadership. People, that is why Hitler was on the cover of Time magazine, and you can look it up. I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying it's a fact. I don't like Hitler. I don't like anything like that, but I'm just saying that's the truth. Dictatorship is no longer becoming a bad word because there is such a lack of direction and leadership. And I think Trump can give that. And listen, I don't care how much of a prick he is. I don't care how much of an asshole he is. I don't care if he's the most pig-headed person on the planet. As long as he's a genius when it comes to political maneuvering and getting what we need for America, as long as he's a business genius, he's a genius at leveraging debt, as long as he's a genius at manipulating other countries and getting what we want, I do not care. I don't care. I just want my friggin' price of living to go down. I want to be able to get a nice interest rate on my mortgage. I want to be able to get a new car if I, have the extra cash. I want to be able to, save up for my kids to go to college, get an education or whatever. I want those things that we used to have in America. And yes, that might be a little selfish, but we can't do good around the world if we're doing just as bad as everybody else. And so I will leave it there. I'm going to shorten this down so we can talk about the 3 things that Trump needs to do. But thank you very much for tuning in. This is BlackRant, and I am signing out. Thank y'all for listening.